Well, gang, we did it again. And by we, I mean me and the rest of our Dub Club community. We smashed the NFL yesterday. Sunday was a fantastic day if you were a Dub Club member. Let me show you why. If we head on over to the winner's circle in the Dub Club Discord, you can see this slip right here. This 6-pick flex play over on PrizePicks, where I took these 6 players to go over their player fantasy score props, and this happened to go a perfect 6 for 6 with no misses. And in fact, we went 11 for 12 on PrizePicks fantasy score props on yesterday's NFL slate. So shout out to everybody who tailed those picks. So we actually had a 2x on top of this 25x. But as you can see here, I turned this $40 into $1,000. So if you're part of the Dub Club community and you tailed this slip, congratulations to you. Shout out to everybody who continues to rock with me in the Dub Club. Now, if you're not in the Dub Club and you want to join, this is a great time for you to do so because I ran a coupon code. Yeah, you can save 50% off of your first month of Dub Club. Typically, it's $20 a month, but with this coupon code, it's only $10 a month for you to get into the community and start getting all my picks, plays, and parlays every day. I'm doing the stat research for you. I'm breaking it all down, the analysis, and I'm putting you guys on as many winning picks as possible. It's not going to be perfect all the time. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that we're hitting every single day, 25x slips left and right. Some days there's going to be tough days. Some days like yesterday are going to be great days. And that's the way it goes with sports betting. There's going to be ebbs and flows, ups and downs. So just being completely transparent and honest with you. But again, if you want to get in the community for 50% off, just $10 for your first month, check out the link down in the description below. I've also pinned the Dub Club link in the comments section below, and you guys can get started and join a very family-friendly community full of helpful people that are sharing their favorite picks, plays, parlays, stats, and information, helpful research, so that we can win more together. So shout out to Dub Club for making this all possible. All right, let's take a look at today's Monday Night Football game. We've got the Buffalo Bills heading south, flying down to the Atlanta Falcons, and there's a lot of different ways we could go with this game. It's actually got a pretty high total, 49.5 points, one of the highest totals of this week's NFL slate. And you're also going to see a pretty nice spread here. The Buffalo Bills are 3.5-point favorites, so the game's supposed to stay, relatively competitive, which is what we like. We don't like blowouts. And so let's take a look at the PrizePicks board. That's where I play all my player props. So if you're not playing on PrizePicks yet and you want to get started, use promo code Curry, make your first deposit. And they're going to match your deposit. And when you match that deposit, they're going to also give you $50 the first time you play $5 over on PrizePicks. So let's start with the visiting team here. We're going to look at Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills. His 11 fantasy score, we're going to go back to the fantasy score since we've been having some good success with the fantasy scores lately. 11 fantasy score looks pretty low for Khalil Shakir. This has been a prop that he's been either tying or going over in a majority of his games. And with this score being so high tonight, the implied total being almost 50 points, hopefully Khalil Shakir is involved here. He lines up in the slot a lot for Buffalo. I also like the fact that Atlanta does tend to blitz more than any other team in the NFL by far. And so I think Josh Allen's passes, he may not have time to do any kind of deep drops and throw, any bombs. He's probably going to have to drop back, get rid of the ball quick, and having a guy like Khalil Shakir, a little safety valve there, is probably going to help him quite a bit. And it would only boost Khalil Shakir's value more if Dalton Kincaid ended up sitting out tonight. He's listed as questionable right now. We're not sure if he's going to play. Curtis Samuel's another guy, another receiver for the Buffalo Bills who may potentially sit out tonight. Both of those guys are questionable, which would, again, just further boost Khalil Shakir's value here. So looking at the 11 fantasy score, let's go take a look at some projections on various sites. And we're going to start with this one, which is RotoWire. RotoWire is a great site because not only does it work for PrizePicks and the NFL, but it also works for Underdog, DraftKings Pick 6, Sleeper, and a whole bunch of sports books like FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, Hard Rock, and Caesars. But it's going to cover NFL, NBA, which is right around the corner, MLB, which is currently underway. College football is covered by this site, NHL, golf, esports, you name it. RotoWire does a little bit of everything. So shout out to the folks at RotoWire for giving me a nice discount code to bless you viewers with. If you're interested in trying out RotoWire and want to save 15% off of any of their subscription packages, there's a link down in the description below. But what RotoWire does here is it basically uses a blend of different factors. It's going to use their proprietary projection models. It's going to look at the hit rates, both this season and historic hit rates. And it's also going to look at other sports betting apps and sports books and kind of compare the lines for PrizePicks in this case to those books. So really dynamic tool. They also have a fantastic mobile app. So just more of a reason why you should try RotoWire out if you haven't yet. But taking a peek at Khalil Shakir here at 11 fantasy score. RotoWire's got him projected right at 11 at 11.05. But we'll take a look at some other NFL projection models and compare them to RotoWire's projection, because every projection model is a little different from one model to the next. And so the more information or data we have at our disposal, the better. But looking at Khalil Shakir here for this season, total of 5 games played, he's at 11 fantasy score or more now in 4 out of 5 games. So very consistent in terms of his productivity. The only game where he really sucked it up was against the New York Jets, week 2. Only 2.2 fantasy score in that game for whatever reason, but bounced back in a big way. Since then, 14.5, 17.9, and 11 fantasy score last week against the New England Patriots, where, you know, the Buffalo Bills offense just did not look good against New England. But nonetheless, yeah, Shakir looking very solid here, very reliable, very consistent at 11 or more fantasy score. So let's take a look at some other projections and see how they compare to RotoWire's projection of 11.05. For that, we're going to go over to the Blitz by Derek Carty, one of my favorite NFL models. If you're wanting like the creme de la creme premium NFL projection system, it's the Blitz. Again, there's a link for this down in the description of today's video as well. But take a look at their projection for Khalil Shakir over there. 15.08 fantasy points. Again, he's at 11 on PrizePicks. 15.08 over on the Blitz. Again, the Blitz is one of the tools that I use to hit slips like I did on Sunday, where I went 11 out of 12 on fantasy score, hit that 6 out of 6 for 25x, $1,000 winning slip. So I really like the Blitz. They do a phenomenal job with their projections, and they really like Khalil Shakir to go over 11 fantasy score tonight in a high-scoring affair against the Atlanta Falcons. So now that we got that projection out of the way, let's check out some of these other ones. This one's really good as well. Fantasy Labs is another one that I would put in that, you know, top tier premium NFL projection model. Some of the best projections out there by Sean Kerner. And they have him projected for 11.7 fantasy score for Khalil Shakir. So hopefully that 11 is doable. But if he exceeds 11, then we're really in heaven. Yeah, and those were bars, if you didn't pick up on that. Let's check out one more projection for this one. We're going to go over to LineStar. LineStar's got Khalil Shakir's fantasy score at 12.25, again exceeding that 11 fantasy score number. So I like Shakir for more than 11 fantasy score. What are we going to play on the other side of this game? We're going to get to that in a minute, but let's talk one more Buffalo Bill prop. I'm looking at Josh Allen. I think I'm going to go Josh Allen for 20 or more completed passes tonight. Again, the Atlanta Falcons do blitz more than any other team. Their defense is going to put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, but they also haven't seen a quarterback yet this season of Josh Allen's caliber. This will be the first like superstar stud quarterback that they're going to face this year. And I think Josh Allen wants to get a little bit of revenge, and hopefully they put the ball in his hands. Atlanta has been pretty good against the run. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of shut the run game down, and maybe Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are dropping back and throwing the football a little bit better, a little bit more than they have in the past. But 20 completions or better for Josh Allen is the prop that I'm liking. Let's take a look at some projections here. We're going to start things off by looking at the sports books on this one. For this kind of prop, a non-fantasy score prop, we can actually refer to the sports books and kind of get an idea of how the sports books are stacking up. They've got Josh Allen, 52.2% chance that he has at least 20 completed passes or more. Most sports books have Josh Allen at 20.5. At 20.5, you're starting to see some money trickle in on the over at 20.5, indicating that 21 or more completed passes is a real thing. There's a chance that Josh Allen completes 21 or more passes. So if people are betting on the over at 20.5, and he's only at 20 on PrizePicks, there's a little bit of value on this play. So I'm going to take a shot here with the sportsbook data that we have at our disposal. But we don't just look at sportsbook data around here. No, folks. We also look at the projections, as we did with Shakir. We're going to look at them with Josh Allen and his completions. His first projection that you're going to find on RotoWire is going to be 21.26 completed passes. Now, it's kind of been an up and down affair for Josh Allen this season when it comes to completing passes. He's got a high completion percentage, but the Buffalo Bills are typically a very balanced offense, running the ball and passing the ball at equal rates. But in this game here, I have a feeling he's going to have to pass a little bit more, being that they are on the road, and this game is expected to be such a tight and close spread. But nonetheless, 33, 22, and 22 in the games that he's went over. The games that he's went under, just 14 and 16 completed passes in those. When you take a look at what he's done in his recent road games, this is dating back to last season. He's actually gone over in 5 out of his last 7 games played on the road. So maybe there's a little bit of hope here yet for Josh Allen to complete at least 20 passes tonight. But yeah, that projection for RotoWire, 21.26 on Josh Allen's completed passes. Let's check out some of these other projections. For this one, we're going to go over to the Blitz. The Blitz has Josh Allen's completed passes at 21.15, so another favorable projection for the over there. We're also going to take a look at Fantasy Labs. Now, Fantasy Labs has 2 really sharp minds behind these projections, Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon. And in this case, we have combined their 2 projections. And when we do so, we punch in Josh Allen's name and go to the completion section, you're going to see he's completing about 21 passes based on their projection models, aggregated or combined. So a nice projection of 21 completions there. 20 should be doable, but he's got 21 or more upside in him based on what these projection models seem to think on Josh Allen. So we'll also check out LineStar. LineStar has him at 19.6, a little bit more of a conservative projection, but their consensus projections have him at 21.8 completed passes, nearly 22. So you got 2 different options here. The 19.6 is pretty close to 20, so there could be a tie or push potential. And then 21.8 is their consensus, kind of like we just saw with Fantasy Labs, where they use a combination of projections to come up with that consensus number. And then last but not least, we're going to look at FanDuel Research. This page used to be called NumberFire. For all you OGs out there, you remember NumberFire from some of my NBA videos. Now it's FanDuel Research, and they have Josh Allen's projected completed passes at 21.3. So pretty much everybody has Allen at or around 20 or more completed passes. So that's pick number 2 from the Buffalo side. Let's switch things up and go to the Atlanta side. We're going to start things off with an offensive projection. And I'm going with Michael Penix, quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. His 15 fantasy score might just be a touch too low. He's been a little hit or miss this season. Penix, a little inconsistent for a young player. That's to be expected. But hopefully tonight on Monday Night Football, playing at home in Atlanta, he steps his game up and he goes over 15 fantasy score. So let's check out some projections here for Michael Penix. And we're going to start things off again with RotoWire. Penix sitting pretty nicely at 15. If you look at the projections on RotoWire, they have him projected for just over 15 at 15.42. Fantasy score is kind of unique because they don't deal with just whole numbers. In other words, he doesn't have to get 16 to clear his 15 fantasy score line. No, he could get 15.1. In fact, if you go back to the slip where I hit 6 out of 6 and you look at Ashton Genty, he was at 16.5 fantasy score. He ended up with 16.6 fantasy score. So he went over by 0.1, which secured the 25x on this slip. So that kind of proves my point that, Penix could get 15.1 fantasy score and go over 15. He doesn't need 15.5 or 16 to clear 15 fantasy score. So looking at his games this season, 4 games in the books, 24 in week 1 against the Bucks. Then the next 2 games were just god awful. 5.3 against Minnesota, 5.8 against Carolina, and then he bounces back in a big way against the Washington Commanders with 19.7 fantasy score. So I'm hoping that 15 is a number that he can definitely achieve. He's averaging right about 13.7. Been very boom or bust this season, to say the least. But the good news is when he plays at home, the last 3 games played at home dating back to last season, he's gone over 15 fantasy score, 26 fantasy score against Carolina back on January the 5th of last year, and then 24 against the Bucks. That was this season, and then 19.7 against Washington, like we talked about before. That was also a home game from this season. So seems to me like he likes to play at home on that artificial turf in that nice air-conditioned dome in Atlanta. So let's look at some other projection for Michael Penix now that we know that RotoWire likes him to go over 15 fantasy score. And for that, we're going to go over to the Blitz. And we're going to punch in Michael Penix's name in the search engine. And then when we get the results, you're going to see the Blitz has him all the way up at 19.18 fantasy score. A huge differential between that 15 on PrizePicks and this 19.18 projection over on the Blitz. So massive gap there. That is a betting opportunity that I will gladly take. Will it work out? We don't know. We don't know. We're gambling, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But when we see those types of advantages, we got to take them. And so in this case, Michael Penix looking really good here for more than 15 fantasy score based on the Blitz projection models. But let's look at Fantasy Labs. Fantasy Labs has Penix at 15.43, a little bit more of a conservative number, but still a little higher than 15, which is A-okay. As long as it's 15 or better on the projections, I'm comfortable with it. And then we'll head over to LineStar. LineStar's got Penix sitting out here at a number at 15.51 fantasy score, so they expect him to go over 15 fantasy as well. So all the projection models liking Penix to clear his line of 15. We've got one more pick for the Atlanta Falcons, and then we'll wrap this video up. I'm going to the defensive side of things, and I'm looking at my guy, Jessie Bates. Bates sitting at 6 tackles plus assists. There's a chance that this ties or pushes, being that it is an even 6, a flat 6, not a 6.5, not a 5.5, it's a 6. So he could tie, could push. Not the end of the world if it happens to you. It just means your PrizePicks slip would revert down to a smaller size. So if it's a 5 pick, it would become a 4 pick. 4 pick would become 3, etc. But Jessie Bates been pretty consistent here, getting his nose in there and making tackles. So hopefully tonight is more of the same. We need 6. But hopefully 7 tackles and assists from Jessie Bates. So he could get a solo tackle, or he could just, like I said, be in there and be involved in a gang tackle situation. But Jessie Bates, if we go look at his projection over on RotoWire, that's another reason why I like RotoWire, because they have some of these more funky, obscure, not so mainstream projections for props like tackles plus assists. They're one of the few sites that I know of that actually offers defensive player projections. But looking at Jessie Bates here, not only is he at 6.5 on an app like Sleeper, so that's kind of a sports book you can kind of compare to, but he's projected for 6.76 on RotoWire, so they do have him going for it more than 6 tackles. And you take a look at what he's done this season, 4 games in the books for Bates, 7 or more tackles in 3 out of 4 games. The only game in which he stunk it up was against the Minnesota Vikings. So Jessie Bates, definitely been in there getting himself some tackles. He's a guy that kind of does it all. Whether the Buffalo Bills want to pass it, he could be back there, drop back in coverage. If they want to run it, he can get up there and play in the box and get his nose in on some James Cook tackles. I mean, he plays all over the field. So Jessie Bates for at least 6 tackles plus assists looks like a pretty solid option. Now, one other data point that we could check on this particular prop is the Prop Professor Optimizer. If you guys aren't using an optimizer when using a site like PrizePicks, Underdog, Better, Dabble, etc., you should be. Why is it so important? Is because it's going to go out, it's going to compare this PrizePicks line to a variety of different sports books and DFS pick'em apps. I mean, look at this thing. I don't know of an optimizer that supports more sports books, more data points than the Prop Professor Optimizer. It looks at the way that the betting public is betting on a given prop, and then it gives you a true percentage or chance of this prop to hit. So in this case, Jessie Bates at 6 tackles plus assists has about a 51.3% chance that he'll have at least 6 tackles and assists. But there's also a chance that he ends up with 7. So this one looking like a positive expected value play. Not the greatest plus EV play in the world, but based on his history, based on his projection, based on a number of different data points and factors, I think I feel pretty good that he can record at least 6 tackles plus assists tonight. So I'm going to go with it. You can go with it if you want. If you like to stay away from defensive players and player props, I don't blame you. But what do you guys think? Who's going to win this game? What other player props or parlays are you playing? Leave them down in the comment section below. I read all your comments. I try to respond to all of them. I love to pick your brain, see what you guys are playing, especially when you got a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. If you're not in Dub Club, you got to get in there. I'll be posting some more NFL slips, mixing some MLB. We've also got a pretty nice sized NHL slate going on tonight, so we'll be dabbling in all the different sports, but we'll catch you on the inside, guys. Good luck. Peace.